Is Australia on the verge of a property Armageddon? Let's have a look. Hello everyone, welcome to this episode of Heiser Says. Got my stein of coffee, and I thought it'd be time for some good old-fashioned fear-mongering about our property Armageddon. And this one's coming from a New Zealand publication, their property section. So, property Armageddon. Aussie house prices could fall 50%. 50%. So here's Mario, a carpenter, good old Mario, eh? New Zealand Herald business editor at large, Liam Dan, and One Roof editor, Owen Vaughan, discuss Auckland's big housing sales tumble, okay? That's Auckland's. But apparently, it means Australia's going to have one too. Let's read their article here. With Sydney and Melbourne's falling house prices infecting other capitals such as Brisbane, Darwin and Perth, some doomsayers say property prices could slump as much as 50% by 2022. Now, okay, that's a good dose of fear-mongering there. Good work, guys. But, you know, Brisbane tends to kind of get a bit of a boost from people selling out of Sydney and Melbourne, just because our housing is so much more affordable compared to those two cities, because it's just insane. So digital finance analytics chief Martin North, good old Martin, says Sydney and Melbourne houses will suffer falls of 20 to 30%, with high-rise units could slide by up to 50% from their peak price in 2017. Okay, so that's where they're getting the 50% from. A 50% drop of over-inflated high-rise units and apartments in Sydney would not shock me at all. At all. Moody's Analytics released forecast last week showing property price corrections in Melbourne and Sydney could be deeper than earlier predictions. Moody's says house prices in 2019 will fall in the following 5 cities. Okay, everyone, get your pens ready. Let's drink your coffee. Okay, Melbourne down 11.4%, Sydney down 9.3%, Perth down 7.7%, Darwin down 2.7%, and Brisbane down 0.6%. Good. I'm not too worried about Brisbane going down that, since it went up 30% since when I bought it. It's a happier story in Hobart, up 4%, Canberra up 3.2%, and Adelaide, wow, Adelaide up 1%. Okay, good on you, Adelaide. Good on you, Hobart. Hobart is a lovely city, honestly. If you're downsizing from Sydney or Melbourne and you're thinking of going somewhere, have a look at Hobart or Lonnie. Just the housing prices are so much more affordable. You know, it's a beautiful land down there, but I mean, the only problem is you're surrounded by greenies, but still, it's lovely there. And it is cold. It is cold. Coming from Brisbane down to Hobart on holiday, damn, it was cold. Good beer, though. I like Bogues. Bogues, not sponsored. Please sponsor. Back on the ground, falls are already exceeding these predictions in some suburbs and shows no sign of stopping. Well, yeah, maybe it's not going to help with the election that we're going in, and we have all heard Bill Shorten not able to actually explain what the costs of his green policies are. I'm going to make a prediction. If we get Shorten in, which signs show that we are, we're going to have the green recession Australia had to have. This is the recession Australia needs to have to go green. And the people that will learn a very hard lesson that suffering for nothing doesn't make any difference to the world, and it just declines people's quality of life. It'll increase crime. It'll reduce people's happiness. It's not going to be good. But they need to learn. Everyone prep. So big movements. North says prices in Melbourne, parts of Brisbane, Perth and Sydney will fall the most between now and 2022. But it is outer suburbs that will be hit by the largest price falls. Prices will unwind in Sydney and Melbourne for at least another 3 years, he says. The problem is a lot of high-level data is averaged, and averaging tells you nothing at all. Prices are not dropping by the same rate everywhere. Yeah, no, he's got a very, very good point. The housing troubles have also stretched into other cities such as Brisbane. They're showing, there we go. Beautiful Brisbane there. I love that, the good bridge there. And walking along here, it's great. And I've actually worked on a project in this building here. We redid a gymnasium. We worked on a few buildings here, actually, I can see. In some places, for example, Western Sydney prices are 23 to 25% down or more, but areas closer into the city, particularly houses, are probably only down 3 to 5%. Well, yeah, that's because a house, you can raise a family, you own the land. An apartment, you only own a share of the land. You've got all these body corporate costs. There's less confidence in the apartment sector. Just look at Opal. Look at the Sherwood Gold Report. Okay, look at everything that's happening in that industry. There is no confidence there, and that's going to affect the pricing. If you look at Newcastle or Illawarra, it's 7.5% down. But there are other areas out in those regions where prices have hardly moved at all. Perth is down 15 to 18% on average. And if you look at Darwin, it could be 25 to 28%. So these are big movements. These really are. North believes the biggest fall will affect high-rise apartments. Yep. He's on the money, isn't he? He is on the money. I know a lot of people mention his content in the comments, and he seems to make sense. He says the Opal Tower drama is partly to blame, with valuations for some new buildings coming in 50% less than what people were quoted when they bought off the plan at the height of the price boom in 2017. So, what do we learn from this? Don't buy off the plan. Don't buy off the plan. Okay, this is just crypto Ponzi schemes in slow motion, guys. It's what will happen in 2 hours in crypto will happen in a few years in the real estate sector. It's not guaranteed profits forever. It is not, particularly if our population growth is only being spurred by immigrants and not natural growth. Land values are also falling. Blue Ribbon Properties Edwin Almeid said land values in Sydney's western suburbs have already dropped 40%. Wow, that's insane. That's a big drop. And we've seen in Melbourne where the banks restricting access to finance has affected people's opportunities to develop land and build their homes. With the average square metre land price in Bankstown local government area falling from 1,500 square metre to 700 to 800. Boy, that's a big drop. Land has also dropped in Layla Park and Mount Druitt by around 40% already. If you look at Newcastle or Illawarra, it's 7.5% down, but there are areas out in the... Wait, have we already read that? Yes, we have. We have. Economic Armageddon. Oh, boy, we always like it when we're talking about Armageddon, don't we? Economist and former government advisor John Adams, who once worked for Liberal Senator Arthur Sindonius, believes economic Armageddon is coming. Well, everyone, let me know in the comments. Do you think economic Armageddon is coming? Let me know. How are you preparing if you think it is? Adams says Melbourne's falling house prices are in a devastating slide that will go beyond Moody's forecast and could reach more than 40% from peak to trough. Are we getting another repeat of what happened in the 18th century? Are we having another depression? Didn't it take like 50 years for it to recover? CoreLogic Australia head of research Cameron Kushner agrees the Moody's Analytics forecasts are more conservative than his internal figures, but he argues property price falls would not be as steep if banks eased lending policies. Well, I don't know. I do not know. People are scared. That's the problem. People are scared. People are losing their jobs. Real Estate Institute of Australia's president, Adrian Kelly, agrees, saying mortgage lending in regional areas is particularly difficult now and could hurt cities outside of Sydney and Melbourne. Sydney fell first, Melbourne fell harder. Kusher says Sydney has led the nation's property price falls, with the most expensive properties suffering the biggest falls. We're already seeing areas in Sydney which have come back 20% or more, Kusher says. If you look at Sydney, Pennant Hills, Epping, have fallen by 26% from its peak. Ryde and Hunter Hills by 19.6%, Coogara 18.4%, whereas the lower Blue Mountains has fallen by 1%, he says. Damn. In Melbourne, it's similar, where the top end has dropped, with some areas coming back 18.1% and others only 5.7%. He says Sydney and Melbourne account for 70% of the total value of Australia's real estate. Just think about that, guys. Dwell on that. How much of our real estate value is held in those two cities? And how many, when you see someone sharing online how they're a real estate guru, How many of them just got lucky and made money and rode the ride up? And now the Ponzi scheme is starting to come back down. What's going to happen? What's different about this downturn is that it's been quite dramatic after such a huge upturn, he said. The federal election campaign won't help things, particularly with taxation changes on the agenda. Yes, it will not. Cost of living, every bloody green policy you vote for is going to be a cost of living increase. It means people won't be able to have as much money to spend on their mortgage when interest rates go up. So if you vote for the Greens or any of these environmental policies that increase cost of living, you are indirectly going to be kicking someone out of their home. Okay? Fact. Has Australia hit rock bottom? Moody's economist Catherine L. says Labor's opposition planned changes to negative gearing are already built into the forecasting models and are unlikely to prompt any further price falls. Perhaps. We are in a housing slowdown. This is not doom and gloom, she says, explaining most of the forecast price slides are caused by the fast price ups that happened during 2017. We'll see, it's still early days. Deloitte Axis economist partner Nikki Hutley agreed, saying Australia hasn't seen the end of the Sydney and Melbourne price falls, but it has seen the worst of it. Employment is growing. Wages are not strong, but are actually growing. These are all signs to say this is not the beginning of something catastrophic, she says. Okay, but have you taken into account, energy policies in the next 5 years that will affect the economic cost of running a business in this country and our comparative advantage to nations overseas? Perhaps a Labor government wanting to decimate an industry that equals 35% of our export markets. Have you taken that into account? Something tells me you haven't. I will put I'd bet a carton that they haven't looked at that. Well, guys, thanks for joining me for this episode. Please like, share, and subscribe. Ding the bell to see my daily updates and tell me what you think is going to happen and how you're planning. I know I'm getting rid of as much debt as I can, as fast as I can. Take care. Bye for now.